Butterflies return someday.
You know, The Greatest Love of All is one of my all-time favorite songs. And, well, actually, let's say this. I grew up hearing both versions because for a time I heard the version sung by legendary George Benson. And that had a different flavor. And then along comes Whitney Houston. And that has a totally different flavor in the 80s. And so, yeah, it was a great song. You know, we've heard it so many times, it can almost feel familiar, like something soft, something easy to hold. But you know what? That song that resonates with so many of us who've been through hard times and are trying to connect with that, I don't know, whatever that greatness is inside of us. It didn't come from ease. It didn't come from ease, and that's not surprising. It was co-written by a woman named Linda Creed. And Linda Creed at the time she was living with breast cancer, writing from inside a reality where the future wasn't promised to her. So she wasn't just writing about something, she heard. This is what it means to say lived experience. She was not writing from distance. She was writing while facing the kind of truth that strips everything down to what is actually real and what is not. So when the words say, learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all, that's not a slogan. So for those of us who felt that song deep, it's like that was her love letter, her message to us. She's not here anymore, and she passed away from that battle at the young age of 37. Now, that love letter to us, that's a woman speaking to herself in the face of uncertainty. That's a woman choosing to stand inside herself, even when the outside world can't hold her, you can't understand her because you don't know what it's like to walk this journey, to go through this experience that she was going through. That's survival language. And that is why for so many of us, it's just, I remember that song getting me. There are a lot of songs that get me through things. I'm one of them folks. But that song, I remember saying, I hope this is true. I hope the words to this song are true and not what I'm living through, not what I'm feeling, not how I'm being treated. I hope this is true. Yes, where you must decide that your worth does not come from how well others receive you, understand you, or remain comfortable around you. There's that tension. Is this other piece real? What other people are saying? Or is it real how people are treating me and telling me who I am, what I am? That kind of truth, it continues every time a woman chooses herself in a world that benefits from her not doing so. Because sometimes your healing, it will offend people. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because you just stopped doing what once made you easier to handle, easy to reach, and easy to use. When you gain this new knowledge around, you say things like boundaries or, self-worth, self-love, self-care, hope, Just that little one word, hope. Faith. New tools for your own protection. Sometimes you disrupt those unspoken arrangements that you didn't even know you were part of those contracts. But those things were unspoken. The ones where now you're not explaining yourself as much. In that old contract, you explained yourself. You accepted more. You carried quietly, very quietly. And you made room where there really was none. You let people squeeze you out. Your growth changes access. And some people experience that loss of access as harm. So they do things like call you distant, difficult, different in a way they don't like. They reach for who you used to be, reinforcing that contract, mind you. And like you're required to honor it forever. Your boundaries, how you feel about yourself, how you think about yourself. Now that's rejection. Your clarity is aggressive. Your discernment, you're listening to yourself. You're tapping in and saying, finally, I'm not ignoring what I feel. I'm not ignoring the symptoms of my body, the signals my body is trying to communicate with me, and I'm not shutting that down anymore. But that's betrayal to some. That's their discomfort with losing control. That's their discomfort. That's not yours. That's theirs. There's always been an expectation, quiet or loud, that women remain consistent for the comfort of others, even at the sacrifice of herself, even when that consistency costs them safety. I must sacrifice everything because this is nice, this is kind, even if it costs me safety, even if it costs me opportunities, even if it costs me, and listen, opportunities and other people, it's not costing other folks opportunities. It's only, you notice in this, you start checking in and saying, it's only costing me. Costing you rest and self-respect. So when you evolve, when you become more precise about what you do allow and what you no longer carry, because some of these things are just toxic, they're just not healthy. It can feel to those who benefited from your silence like something was taken from them. But here's the truth of what happened. Because I struggled with this. I remember going to therapy and saying, well, wait a minute, there's this tension. It's what you're saying and it's what other people are saying. Here it is. You have returned to yourself. You have learned to name what you feel. You have learned to recognize what harms you. You have learned that access to you is not an automatic thing. It's earned. And it can be limited. And that's not cruelty. That's clarity. And clarity, especially in women, it can unsettle systems, families, communities, any type of space, workplaces, spaces that rely on negotiation, confusion, and quiet endurance at your expense only. You're going to have to let folks be unsettled. And that in itself is challenging because that's new. Their frustration is not a measure of your wrongdoing. It's often a reflection of a dynamic that no longer works in their favor. But you didn't come here to remain small so others can remain comfortable. You didn't come this far. You didn't survive what you survived for that. You're not here to abandon what you've learned just to restore someone else's cage-filled familiarity. Growth will change how you speak. It's going to change how you speak, how you talk, what you say, what you want to talk about, what interests you. Healing will change what you tolerate, and both will reveal who was only at ease with you when you had less protection, less awareness, less focus, because you weren't focused as much perhaps on you and your place in this world and your purpose and how powerful you are. Think about that. So when you hear that song again, yeah, we got to hear that as a love letter. And I can't go away without, Linda Creed wrote those lyrics. The music is by Michael Masser. Linda Creed wrote those lyrics like a love letter to us. Like a love letter. Receive it that way from here on out. When you hear that song again, hear it clearly. It was brilliantly sung by Whitney Houston. Yes, it was. And know that the person who wrote those words, she didn't write it as a performance. She wrote it as inspiration to you, the greatest. She wrote it as truth spoken from inside a life that understood its own limits and chose self-love all the way through. That kind of truth, that doesn't fade. That's why it's so classic. And neither should yours. On the days when it feels heavy to carry that clarity, I hope you hang on to some things like this. That you are allowed to grow without apology. You're allowed to become harder to access if that's going to threaten your, the growth. And you are allowed to choose peace over being understood. You don't need permission to keep what you've learned, to honor your boundaries, or to protect the life you are building. That's not destruction. That's preservation. It's a love letter to you from Linda Creed. All right, guys. Thanks. The greatest love of all, right? Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. I hope you receive that. Protect your greatness. Thanks for listening. This is Tanya G.J. Prince. Thanks for listening. Y'all be great.